Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fit Lawyer Pod. I am your host, Fit Lawyer Julia, and I know I say this for all the episodes, but today's guest was truly, truly special and honestly such an honor. Um, so I met Chelsea when she was still living in San Diego. I just bumped into her at a gym and I was kind of fangirling out and didn't really know what to say, but coincidentally, we had the same pattern gym bag. She had the duffel version, I had the backpack version. So I was like, oh, we have the same gym bag. Um, and she was so sweet. And that was even before she became an IFBB professional female bodybuilder and a two-time Olympian. Can we just take a moment? I just had an IFBB professional female bodybuilder and two-time Olympian on my podcast. Thank you. And we had such a beautiful conversation. I've been a fan of Chelsea's, like I said, for many years before she was a pro athlete. I just always admired her candidness and how transparent she was about both bodybuilding, fitness stuff, as well as just her personal life, everyday life stuff. And she was just always so nice and so sweet, it's truly been an honor to follow her fitness journey, follow her journey from San Diego to Vegas to being a NPC competitor to an Olympian. I think for those who don't know, Olympia is like the Super Bowl of football, like the World Series for baseball, like the actual Olympics, right? Like the top of the top, the best of the best. And she made it to Olympia her first pro season and placed top 10 in the world, and went back again the second year, also placed top 10. And she's just so humble too. She talked about experiencing some imposter syndrome, feeling like she didn't deserve it. But I think that's also because just how truly, truly humble she is. Because I've seen the work that she put in, and I think she absolutely deserved it. She looks phenomenal on stage. Physique is on point, and her posing is on point. And I'm just such a fan, and I just can't stop gushing. I literally tell everybody about her, and I just feel so honored to know someone like her and to be able to call her a friend, and just a woman that I really look up to and really admire. She's been through so much hardship in her life, and to see her thriving today in both her bodybuilding career as well as her love life is so beautiful. And um, we just had such a candid conversation about bodybuilding, about life, about love, about um, just everything. And I'm so, so excited to share our conversations with you. So here it is, Miss Chelsea Dion. Hello. Oh my gosh, I am so, so excited. We have IFBB women's bodybuilding pro and two-time Olympian. Show off the logo. Show off the logo. Ooh,
There you
ooh,
go.
ooh. Love, love, love. So, thank you so much for being on, because I know you're super busy. You just finished Olympia and then you were sick,
Yeah.
and now you are in off season. First of all, how are you feeling? You feeling a lot better?
I feel so much better. I don't sound so crazy. Like getting sick, I lost my voice and my cough has
Same.
been really bad. So now I don't sound as horrible. And so finally we can do this.
Yes, I'm excited. I wore my special shirt just for the occasion.
Chelsea Dion, first edition shirt.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
The
And I
support
wear it,
movement.
I literally wear it all the time. And one time I wore it to EOS out in Point Loma. And then somebody's like, "Oh, do you know Chelsea?" I was like, "I do indeed, actually." And it was like, "Oh, yeah, I followed your career for a minute, but she's not in San Diego anymore." And I was like, "Yeah, because,
Too
it's
expensive.
cool." Yeah. And I think that's something people don't know about this sport is that it's not like other sports as a professional athlete. You're not pulling in that professional athlete money.
No,
Um,
absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's unfortunate, but there are ways to make money.
yeah. And can you elaborate a little bit on those? Because I know as a professional bodybuilder, you'll get prize money, but again, that's nominal compared to how expensive the sport is. So, what are
Yeah.
some ways to monetize in this sport?
So definitely, any way via social media,
Hmm.
building your presence online, building your name. Those are ways that you can really kind of start to bring money in, and then you can get sponsorships with supplement companies, clothing companies, all those types of things. I've so gratefully have received quite a few sponsorships this last year that are actually like paid salary sponsors that are very like you hardly hear about those. So I'm in like such a great position that I'm very thankful for. And it's like all of the work that I've been doing like on social media for years and years and years, it's like it's finally coming to fruition
Yeah.
with my bodybuilding career. So as I feel like I continue to do good in the bodybuilding realm, it'll help with
Hmm.
sponsorships and stuff like that.
And do you think it's more of a social media presence that helps or the level of bodybuilding you're at? Because I mean, you're an Olympian, a two-time Olympian at that, top 10 in the world both years.
Mm.
So do you think, which one do you think is more helpful as far as
I
generating
think
income?
social media presence is
Oh,
more
wow.
honestly, just because look at all the people who have tons and tons and tons of followers who don't compete, who make money.
Hmm.
So it's just a matter of I think that presence, but um, yeah, it definitely I think it's the majority of that.
Okay. And then let's bring
Yeah,
it
but then there's
back.
other ways,
So,
Oh, sorry, go.
oh, no, no, go ahead.
There's other ways to make money, like with YouTube and TikTok. I guess I'm not on TikTok, but when my YouTube's monetized, so that's one thing that I really enjoy
Yes.
doing is putting out videos. Even though it takes a while for me to edit everything, that's something that I just try to do in my spare time. But it helps bring in a little bit of money.
Your YouTube videos are so good, and I can't believe you edit you film and edit everything yourself, right? You're a
Yeah,
one
I
woman
do.
production team.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Matt will like film for me, but I kind of like just doing them by myself because then I'm more comfortable. I can just be
Yeah.
me and I can edit it how I want, and it's just kind of fun to kind of figure out like how to do things and get pretty good at it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think with YouTube now, I think you could edit straight on there and it makes it a little bit more user friendly. Whereas before, I think it was strictly just a uploading platform. But
Yeah,
I love your YouTube videos. When I was on prep, that's literally all I would watch
yeah, it really helps
when I'm doing
cardio go
cardio.
by. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I want to throw it back a little bit to ask, um, when did you start bodybuilding and how did you get into this sport?
Well, I got into the sport basically when I was like, let's see, it was like 2011. I had just finished playing like sports in college, and started partying with my girlfriends, and next thing you know, I just ballooned up, put on a bunch of weight. I grew up in a small town, and people started talking all this shit about me,
Oh
about
shit.
how I put on all this weight. And one night I get like a bunch of text messages from like all these random numbers that I didn't know, basically telling me like I was such an embarrassment and I should go kill myself and I got
Oh
so
my.
fat. Yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh. Random numbers would text you that numbers that you didn't know.
yeah, yeah. I found out who it was eventually. And
Okay.
they apologized. And I'll get to that though. But um, yeah, so when that happened, like I just remember like crying myself to sleep, and my roommate came in and she knew how upset I was. And that's when I was like, you know what? Like, I just need to like change my life. I need to figure something out. Like, I'm obviously not happy with myself. So, let me try to figure something out. So I started getting Oxygen magazines back then. That was like the one of the women's fitness magazines. And in the very back, they had a competitors corner. And that's where they showed like figure girls. Cause back then really they basically had bodybuilding and figure. But like they never really promoted the women's bodybuilding like they did like figure. And I'm like, what is this? Like this is like a muscly pageant. And I'm like, maybe this will be something that I can kind of use to motivate me to lose some weight. Because I grew up doing pageants before I got into sports. And so I'm like, okay, I want to do this like competing thing. And so, yeah, that was 2011. And very shortly after there, I remember like getting these eat clean books and just trying to figure out how to change my way of eating. And I shortly moved to San Diego right after that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get into fitness. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to figure it out. And so I moved down there. I was doing nails at the time because I was a licensed manicurist. And I ended up getting a job at LA Fitness. And that's kind of where things kind of just started. I just started working there. Like, what was I doing? Oh, I was doing sales. So I was just trying to like sell people on gym memberships. But it got me in a gym environment where I was there all the time. So I started doing like fasted cardio. I started training with like some of these trainers, that worked there for fun. And I just kind of found the love of my body changing. I first it was like, oh, like today I'm curling the 10s, next week I'm curling the 15s. So I got addicted to getting stronger and stronger, and then with that came my body changing. um
And
and
at this time,
then
were you working with a coach? Were you working with anyone,
no,
or it was just self experimenting?
no, it was basically like self-experimenting because like one, I was
Okay.
poor as fuck. Like I couldn't afford anything. Like there was one point in time where the a lady that I met at the salon I was working at, she was doing my hair for me for free. And she went through her whole house, like her pantry, her freezer, and just got out all the things that like she and her family weren't going to eat and like gave them to me. It was like I've had so many people along this journey
Wow.
like help me in so many different ways that it's just been like really amazing to like look back and think about it. But no, it was just me trying to figure it out. And then one day this like older bodybuilder came up to me and he's like, your legs could put you in the WWE. And I'm like, well, that would be cool, and he kind of like took me under his wing, and he was like, I'll train you every day as long as you show up here at 7 a.m. And so I did. Every morning I showed up at 7 a.m. He trained me. I would go work all day, come back, do whatever else I needed to do, go home, restart the day, and I learned a lot from that guy. And so I'm pretty thankful for him, wherever he is now. He taught me a lot, and it really, I think, built a really good foundation for me. And then I ended up competing and doing my first show in 2014. I competed right away in women's physique. I really idolized, Dana Lynn Bailey and her being like the first women's physique pro, first women's
Hmm.
physique Olympia winner. And so after that first show, I was hooked.
And did you have a coach for your first show? Or
Yes,
did you
after my first
Okay,
show,
okay.
I ended up getting a coach who sponsored me basically. He
Nice.
saw my potential on Instagram and he was like, "Hey, like I would love to coach you for your show for free." And so he taught me like how to, we did a whole like if it fits your macros prep.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
my first show ever was basically eating whatever I wanted within my macros. So I
Right.
think that really taught me a lot as far as, you know, you don't have to eat specific things for your
Yeah.
body to change. I do a meal plan now, but I liked learning that way.
Do you like the meal plan or the macros better?
I like the meal plan, but
Oh,
I like that I know I can switch things out.
okay.
You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I kind of do like a hybrid.
Okay.
But with
Nice.
when I'm in prep, it is strictly meal plan.
Okay. Yeah, I just did so before my first two shows, they were all on meal plan and it was just literally chicken, veggies, and rice and tilapia.
Yeah. Ugh.
And so I did, yeah, no, it was pretty gruesome. And then my last two shows, I did macros, and I like that so much better. I don't think I can ever go back. We did like a meal plan for the last month, but that's
Yeah.
just to keep things like, the
The same.
same and very
Hmm.
little changes. But I don't think I could ever do a full prep on meal plans again.
Yeah. I don't know. I just want to get like creative with like cooking it different ways, or once I find
Yeah.
a specific way that I like my food, it's like every single meal is the same until I get sick of it cooked that way.
For off season, are you on macros?
No, I'm on a basic plan.
Oh, okay. Even
But like
even on off season,
I'll
you're on a meal
sub
plan.
out my like white rice for rice noodles or English muffin or rice
Okay.
cereal, or you know, I just kind of substitute things here and there.
Yeah, because I mean, you've been in the sport long enough, and you know your body well enough to know, like,
Yeah.
these food swaps.
Yeah.
Um, so you did your first show in 2014 in physique,
Hmm.
and then but then you went pro in female bodybuilding, right?
Yeah. So after my first show in 2014, I was married at the time, and like a week after my show, he deployed for 9 months. So I literally went off the fucking rails with my eating. I think I put on like 50 pounds in like 2 months.
Oh wow! After
And
your show.
yes, yeah, I ballooned up because one, I couldn't control my eating. You know,
Yeah.
I just did a prep for the first time ever, and you know how hard it is after a show to
Yep.
keep your shit on track, and it's so important. It totally fucked my body, I think, for about 4 years. Like,
Oh
I
wow.
think it took about that amount of time for my body to just kind of like level itself out because
Okay.
I was trying so hard to get back on stage again, but my body just like kept fighting me for those 4 years. And then all of a sudden, um, you know, I'm kind of doing whatever, still like doing fitness.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I was dabbling in powerlifting because
Okay.
one random night I was out partying. And this is when I was living
I
in LA.
love stories that start that way.
So one night in LA, I was partying and I was talking about my bench press because I've always been really good at bench pressing, like 225 easy. And I was telling this guy, and he was like, "So I have this girl who used to work for me. He owns a supplement shop." And he was like, "She's been training like crazy for this powerlifting meet coming up. You should do it and beat her." He's like, "I'll sponsor you to do it." And I'm like, "Okay."
That's awesome.
So this was literally on like a Sunday. The powerlifting meet was that next Saturday. So I like just roll up to this powerlifting check-in, and it's like USPA powerlifting meet. Like
Uh,
an
what's
official powerlifting meet.
USP
USPA
United States Powerlifting
association.
Association?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And
Okay. The real
so
deal.
Yeah, and so, like, here I show up to check-ins, and they're like, "Where's your gear?" And I'm like, "Oh," like, I didn't know I had to bring anything. And they're like, "Okay, well, what are your starting numbers?" And I'm like, "Oh shit. Okay, let's think. I know I could bench 225. I know I could squat 315. I know I could deadlift 315. So let's just start there." And they're like,
Oh
"Okay."
shit.
And so I show up to this meet blindly, have no idea what to expect, and I end up winning the overall. And
Nice.
all these girls are like,
That's
"Oh my god!"
amazing.
I know. All these girls are like, "Oh my god, how long have you been doing this for?" Like blah blah blah. And I'm like, I just kind of jumped in this. And so I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's just kind of focus on powerlifting for a little bit. Like, this is something to focus on other than
Yeah.
the way I look. Because I was weighing 220 at this time. I was a big old girl,
Okay.
super heavyweight. And so I did another bodybuilding show or another powerlifting meet 2 months later in January. Won that one as well. And then I'm like, okay, let's go do nationals. Like, fuck it, let's try to go do get a pro card in powerlifting. And at the time, I had just gotten picked up with Eva Jin to do like demo reps for them. So I would go like set up a table at a supplement shop, give out samples, whatever. And Hani Rambod saw me and was like, let's, what are you doing for your diet? And I'm like, oh, kind of this and that. And he's like, send me what you're doing. And he's like, I'm going to adjust it for you. He's like, I want to see you at like 170. And so, like, when the best coach in the world is offering to adjust your diet for you because he wants to see you at a lower weight because I would be more marketable. Basically, that's what he was saying. He was like, you're very marketable, but I want to see you cut down. He adjusted my diet, and all of a sudden, boom, started losing weight. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll get back on stage. So I was doing powerlifting in 2017, and then 2018 I said, fuck it, let's get back on stage. And so we did. 2018 I did women's physique show in July, and then I did my first ever nationals in November 2018. Took absolute last place. I got my ass handed to me, which is okay. That was also the same show that Andrea Shaw went pro at, um, Miss Olympia. And yeah, she remembers. I guess apparently I helped her with her suit backstage, and I don't remember that.
I love that. And I love all of like the throwback photos that you post as well as just how like open and candid you are on your Instagram because I think it really really helps to show that like hey, yes, this is what my physique is now, but it took many many years when you do those throwbacks of like 10 years ago or
Mhm.
9 years ago, um as well as being how honest you are about bouncing or binging after a show because I
Yeah.
remember one post you said I remember being on the floor
Oh my God. Yeah.
with a tummy ache and
Yes.
then you still ate a bowl of cereal.
No, literally, I tell this story all the time. It was after my first show.
Yeah.
I was laying on the floor in the bathroom, hurting so bad because I had just stuffed myself full of Oreos and fucking cereal and trail mix and literally anything. And I was in
Yeah.
so much pain, but here I am laying with a bowl of cereal, still eating the cereal while laying on the floor in the bathroom wanting to throw up. It was like I couldn't
Yeah.
control myself. It was scary.
Yeah. Because that happened to me too. After my first show, I ballooned up because I was just eating everything, and literally my stomach hurt so bad. Sometimes I was like, "Shit! Like, am I gonna pop my own stomach?"
Yeah,
Like that's literally kind of how it feels, and I just and it's like you feel shitty, but somehow you just can't fucking stop.
exactly.
And then there's like this shame that comes with it. I don't know about you, but at least like I did. I was like, oh my god, like I have no self control. Um,
Mine is more so like when I go to the gym, like I'm kind of experiencing this right now because like I got super sick after the Olympia. lost my
Mhm.
body quicker than you could fucking blink, right? And so here I'm like showing up to the gym since I haven't been there since the Olympia, looking like a completely different person. And I'm just like, oh God, these people are like, what the fuck happened to this chick? You know, she just competed at the Olympia. And now she's like a chubby girl, you know? But it's whatever. Like, my body will bounce back in no time.
And I
I
think
gotta
that's
let it
something
go.
that, yeah, that's something that I've learned with more shows I do as well, both as well as both the binging as well as knowing like, yes, my body is going to change and to really kind of embrace my body and in different in its different phases.
Yeah.
Because prep phase, I like how chiseled my face is, but at the same time, like I feel like I look so old
I
when I'm
know,
like
right?
lean. So
Right? Yeah. I'm not
now,
used to all this right here and this right here.
but I love it because it's like it's a healthier look,
Yeah.
like
I know we get so like stuck in that look, you know. I've spent
yes,
basically the last 2 years lean constantly. And it just goes to show that like the way I look now with just like 3 weeks of basically like no cardio, no training, like I have
yeah,
to work extremely hard to look the way that I do. You know, I don't just walk around lean all the time. Like my body wants to be 210. Like it
yeah,
wants to be a heavy girl. So it takes a lot of work, you know, but I'm super excited for this off season though, like to put on some quality size and just like
yeah.
spend a whole year like growing and building density and it's gonna be good.
And when you say quote unquote big girl, like I want people to know you're also really tall. You're like what,
Yeah.
5'10",
I'm five
5'9"?
nine. Five
Yeah,
nine.
so that's also really tall for a woman.
Yeah.
And again, like you have so much muscle on you. Like when you're shredded, it's crazy. And I've been a fan since before you were an Olympian, when you were still
Uh-huh.
in San Diego. I
We
remember
have
the
the same
first
backpack.
time.
Or we're the
Yes!
same.
Oh my gosh! I remember the first time I bumped into you at Boulevard. I was like, oh, like got to figure out something to say. Like I wanted to say, but you were working out. I don't know if that was like an ex partner or a coach,
Yeah.
but you were
It was
working
my
out
it was
with
my ex.
someone.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, like I was like, oh, we have the same bag. Here's our topic, because you had the
Here's my
duffel
friend.
version, and I
Yeah.
had the backpack version.
Mm.
So I was like, oh my god, so cute! Look, we have the same bag.
You're
And
like,
you're
we're
like, oh,
twins.
you're like, yeah, it's cute, and you were just so nice and so sweet. And then we kind of just became Instagram friends. We bumped
Yeah.
into each other a couple of times, just around San Diego. But I've just been such a fan, and I just genuinely admire you so much beyond as an athlete, because we've talked about some personal things, like some
Yeah.
shit that you went through. So yeah, so before we get too deep, I just wanted to let you know that like I
Thank
followed your
you.
journey for the past few years, and
Thank you.
as an athlete, as a woman, like I'm just an all around fan.
Thank you. And like you
And
said earlier, I like to share as much as I can, like especially with transformation photos, this and that, like
yeah,
just because I know like someone out there is just needing a little bit of motivation and hopefully somebody sees a little something in me that they can see themselves in. You know what I mean? Like, oh
yeah,
shit, you know, she went through all this and look at where she's at now. Um because like I feel like too many of us keep a lot of the things and our journey to ourselves and not realizing how many people are watching.
yeah,
You know, we just need more people to show examples like, look, I've been there, I've done that. Like you can change your life too. So
yeah.
I've always just been an open book.
And um when you switched divisions, you actually changed up your whole look, because you ain't big red no more, because that hair
I
was
know.
iconic, and then it was like bye bye big red and hello sophisticated brunette.
Yeah, it was when I got my boobs done that I woke
Oh,
I came out of surgery. I'm like, I'm a new woman. And then like 2 weeks later, I think it was, I was playing around with like a brunette wig that I had. and I was doing like a
Okay.
little mini photo shoot at home, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do something crazy. So I went to Sally's, and because my hair, when I dyed it red, I've been dyeing it myself for 8 years. So
Oh
I was like,
shit.
let's just go get some brown and let's throw it on, and let's see. And so I dyed my hair brown, went to the gym the next day, and I remember I was sitting there talking to Lambo, and his wife comes up from behind, and she's like, looks at me, and she like did a double take. She's like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Who's this lady talking to my husband?" And so I really feel like got my boobs done, dyed my hair brown, and then I had started with my coach in the beginning of that year. That was 2021. So I
Yes.
signed up with him in January. March, I got my boobs done. And then from there, we were just kind of like focusing on getting my body on in track and stuff. And so I
Hmm.
was like, all right, let's do nationals. Let's do women's physique. He's like, okay, cool. And then 2021 Olympia was in October. That was in Orlando.
Hmm.
And I randomly went to that on a whim. And I was headed to the Meet the Olympians, and we're going down the escalator, and my girlfriend who I was with, she was like, "Oh, we got to go find Margie Martin." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So we're on the escalator, and I see Margie Martin, and we head over straight to her, and I'm like, "Oh my god, like, you know, I'm such a fan." And she was like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Me? What do you mean?" And she's like, "You are a women's bodybuilder if I've ever seen one." And I was like, "Oh, actually, I do women's physique." And she's
Wow.
like, "No, you need to do women's bodybuilding." And
Wow.
that weekend was actually the first time I met my coach in person, because he lives out in Dubai,
Hmm.
and he was in town for the Olympia. And so we met up, and we were going through posing, and I was like, "Hey, like, what do you think about me going up to women's bodybuilding?" And he was like, "Let's do it." I said,
Okay.
"Okay, cool. Let's work on the poses."
Yeah.
And then let's see, this was October. I think I was like 6 weeks out. And then we went to nationals, did women's bodybuilding, and I won the overall and my pro card. So
Yes,
it
I
was,
remember that.
yeah, it was basically
So,
like that was the moment where I was like, okay, this is where I belong.
yeah. So you guys were actually still prepping for physique, and then just halfway through prep, you guys were like, No, we're going to do bodybuilding." And
Mhm.
then you had to switch up did you have to switch up your workout at all, or your
No,
diet? No.
no,
Okay.
nothing.
Just
It was
opposing?
just the posing. Yeah, he like
Okay.
once he saw me in person, he kind of realized like how big I was, and he was
Okay.
like, okay, yeah, let's do women's bodybuilding. I just never
Okay.
thought to do women's bodybuilding because I'm like, how can I be a women's bodybuilder if I can't even get lean for women's physique? So that's kind of
Okay.
was like my thought process. But the last time I had competed at like a national show was USA's 2020, and I did women's
Hmm.
physique there, and it was pretty clear that I was just a little too big even there.
Okay.
Um, but
So I'm in the little muscle category, and I don't know too much about the bigger categories for women or men. Like, I'll be
yeah.
honest, I don't really follow men's bodybuilding that much. Sorry. Um, so what is the big differences in the physique category versus the bodybuilding category? Like, what are the judges looking for?
So women's physique is almost like a smaller bodybuilder. Um, they just are a little more, just not as big and round as women bodybuilders are. Um, it's like kind of interesting because like in the pro level, women's physique competitors come in way more conditioned than female bodybuilders. Way
Oh,
more conditioned.
interesting.
It's kind
Like
of you're
like
trying to,
leaner,
yeah. It's
like
like
more muscle striations and stuff.
basically, but they just have smaller
Oh,
muscles. So with
okay,
women's bodybuilding, it's kind of like you want to have that balance of like muscle fullness,
yeah,
roundness,
okay,
and conditioning. Like if you look at Andrea Shaw, Miss Olympia, she's very round. She's not crazy striated. Like she doesn't have like striated glutes. some of these women's physique competitors, they all have striated glutes, like crazy
Yeah.
cut glutes. So it's trying to find that balance, and my body is just more geared towards being bigger and fuller. So
Okay.
didn't I just not fighting it?
Yeah. And then what about the posing? Because I know for bodybuilding, you do a beautiful routine and it's almost like a dance, like a flowy dance. And
Yeah.
then you show off the muscles.
So
What is the posing? Yeah.
the difference between women's physique and women's bodybuilding is women's physique do open hand flexing. Women's bodybuilding is closed fist. So we
Oh,
have
interesting.
Yeah, so we have like front double biceps, we have like side chest, we have side tricep, we have back double bicep, but we also, which women's physique does not have, we have front lat spread and rear lat
Yeah.
spread, as well as
Okay.
ab and thigh. So women bodybuilders, we have two extra poses as opposed to women's physique.
Okay. And then for women's physique, is it also that flow in
Yeah,
your posing?
yeah, we
Okay.
each get like we get to do a presentation to music. So you get to do like
Yes.
your own
I
kind of
love that.
performance. Yeah, I love that too. It's my favorite.
um, was it difficult switching up or like learning the bodybuilding posing?
Not really. The only thing that was difficult was like my rear lat spread. Was trying to get that like
Okay.
figured out. Um, but everything is really quite the same. Um, just little tweaks here and there. Thankfully, I've had really good posing coaches.
Yeah, nice. Because I know, like, I don't know if it's just because I'm super awkward, but for like the bikini posing, I've been practicing on opening up both ways, but I just feel so awkward opening up like this way.
Mhm.
And so and I know girls that moved from bikini to like wellness, and they'll talk about how just because some a lot of times it's like muscle memory, right? Like their bodies
Yeah,
are just
100%.
used to going into that position, so to change it up and to go with the flow, or go in a flow is sometimes difficult. But I'm glad to hear that your transition wasn't
Yeah, it wasn't
too
too bad.
difficult.
I mean, if I tried to like drop down and do like figure, I'm sure it would be hard, but I can't ever see
I
that
think
happen.
you're, yeah, I think you're in the perfect category because I mean, you went, so 2021 was, or 2022, last year was
It
your
was my
big
pro
year.
season.
Yeah, so that was your first pro season and you went straight to the Olympia top 10
Hmm.
and then you went back to Olympia this year, even though I know
Yeah.
you were not very happy.
No, I was not, but I was very happy with just the year in general.
Yeah.
Because I guess like it's kind of like I feel like I'm almost like an imposter almost. So like my first pro season, right? I placed third at my pro debut. I win my second pro show. I go to Rise in Phoenix. I place, I think it was eighth, beating, a bunch of these competitors who've been competing for years. Then I go to the Olympia and I place eighth, or I placed ninth, beating also a lot of these women who've been at the top for a really long time. And in my head, I'm like, there's no way. This is just a fluke. Like, there's no way that I really placed all these ways. Like something happened along the way to where it just so happened to fall in my favor. And so I could have taken the plan was to take this year off. But I was like, you know what? Like, I feel like I need to just compete again to just like make sure that I am really like as good as I guess I think I am,
Yeah.
like living up to my name. And so, and I was, going into this second pro season, I was like, am I going to be able to do this again? Like, am I going to place well again? I'm not sure. Like. So we jumped into Spain.
And that was your first trip abroad. I
Yeah.
literally gushed to my mom about you. I was like, "Oh, you remember the bodybuilding girl I was telling you about?" She's like, Yeah, the one that you have a shirt of, which she thinks it's weird, but I was
Yeah,
like, it's okay. You don't have to get it. You just have to respect it.
exactly.
I was like, she's going to Spain. This is her first like trip abroad, and she's going to compete. And I was like, showing her your stories and like yeah that takes so much discipline to go abroad to Spain and not like double fist sangria and paella like straight off the airport, because when I was in Spain, girl, I was on that seafood eat food diet
It was
like
definitely hard because I was walking the streets, seeing all these cafes with their pastries like every
oh,
morning. I'm just like,
yes.
one day, like. So that was a total risk going to Spain because one, it's fucking expensive. Okay.
Yes,
It
yeah.
was so fucking expensive. We had to go out there for like a week ahead, and so
Uh-huh.
thankfully winning that, like, you know, okay, $2,000, cool. That covered nothing.
Yeah.
Um, but just being able to go out there and being in front of an international crowd, and
Yeah.
the girls who competed at that show were all like very big, very impressive. Don't get me wrong, completely impressive, but a totally different look than what I have. So I was a little worried that, like, I'm gonna go out there and get my ass beat by these girls who are crazy huge looking but don't necessarily have the femininity that I do.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it worked out to my favor, and we got the qualification. And then 2 weeks later, we did Rising Phoenix, which is like crazy that it was 2 weeks later because it feels like I literally just did it the show.
Yeah.
um, but winning top five at Rising Phoenix was hands down the best thing in my career so far.
Wow, really?
Because
Bigger
that is
than Olympia?
Yeah, because that is like comparable to the Olympia for us. So they
Okay.
created the Rising Phoenix World Championships in 2015 when they got rid of the Olympia when they got rid of the Olympia for women's bodybuilding. In
Okay.
2014, Iris Kyle, she won her 10th Olympia title and retired. So they dropped women's bodybuilding the next year
Oh my
from the Olympia.
gosh.
Yeah. And so thankfully, Jake Wood, who now owns the Olympia, back then he was like, we can't let bodybuilding just die. So he
Yeah.
created the Rising Phoenix World Championships that was specifically focused on us. And the prize money is the same as the Olympia, so 50,000 plus a car. So you win a car and a $50,000 check. So that show is one that brings the best of the best bodybuilders. And so there was like 20 something of us that were selected, and to place top five, good prize money, one. And two, like, it just I got to be compared to Andrea for a
Yeah.
whole run through. They had me right next to her. We did a whole pose down, and it was just like that right there. I was like, oh my God, like, holy shit, like I
Yeah.
could be like one of the top people, one day. So it just lit a fire under my ass. It really did.
And when you were talking a little bit earlier about, thinking you going to Olympia was like a fluke, or, going through imposter syndrome, I think that's really common, and more so in females than males. I feel like, um, but what was I gonna say? Oh, but you're also really young in this sport.
I am, yeah, like
Like
Mr. Olympia is
I
40.
Yes, like I did a little stalking on your competitors, because I don't want to be judgy. Everybody's prep phase is different. Everybody
Yeah,
loses body fat differently. So I was like, okay, maybe they just lose a little bit more face fat. And then, I did a little stalking on them. I was like, oh no, they've been at this game for a long time. Like you
yeah,
are like a good 6, 7 years younger than everybody. Like, and
like
that's
8 years, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, like that's major, because what, 8 more years that they had to build
Mhm.
muscle than
Yeah,
you. And that's something that's not always like talked about. Like
yeah,
there's, I think the people who sponsored you or before like really saw that potential in you because you were even younger back then, like in your
yeah. I
20s.
was
For
when I did my first
someone,
show, 23.
yeah, that's super young.
Yeah,
For someone, and also for someone to be like, hey, you have potential, I want to coach you.
mhm.
um that's major.
Yeah. I've always been really
So
lucky with that. I'm very thankful. Like I said, I've had so many people along this journey just like help me,
yeah.
and it's something that I hold very near and dear to my heart because there's it, without those people, like who knows where I would be, like people taking me under their wing, coaching me, this and that, like it's crazy.
And I think it's also how humble you are. Like your work ethic is there because to not everybody would be able to go to the gym at 7 a.m. to train just because someone was like, "Oh, I'll train you for free." They might do it for like a day or two and then like, nah, like fuck that. I'd rather go to bed or I'd rather sleep in or like this is kicking my ass a little too much.
Yeah,
Um,
but I love it. I
so
love it.
yeah, good. And so, with the imposter syndrome, don't don't discredit yourself, and you work so hard. You deserve all the success, all the love, and everything you have in your life, because the glow up is inside and out. I see it on your face. You're happier, you're glowing,
Yeah.
your career is taking off, and you and Matt are just the cutest. When you posted, someone was like, do you have kids? And you're like, two sons, different dads. I was dying. Probably different moms too, because Tito and
Yeah,
Scooby looks very different.
yeah, different moms, but one mama.
Yes. But when you said different dads, I was laughing so hard.
I know I'm not the
Um,
funniest person ever, but when I do have those little moments, I'm like, that was a good one.
you guys actually have quite a zoo over
We do
there.
a literal
Uh,
zoo. We have
like you guys got,
snakes,
oh, really?
10 snakes, a tortoise, two fur babies.
You guys have
That's
10
it.
snakes?
Yeah, he's gonna
Okay, so
breed them one day.
I know you guys have a beautiful red-tailed boa and two of the
Two red
emerald
tail.
tree boas.
Yeah, so two red tail boas, a boy and a girl, that we will breed eventually, and
Oh,
then
wow.
like he has a ball python, and then the rest are green tree boas, basically.
Oh, he has a whole bunch of tree boas because
Hmm.
they're not necessarily easy to find and they're not cheap
No,
snakes.
they are not cheap, and they are like very special locality or
Yes.
whatever from like
Yes.
Indonesia.
So those all came with Matt? Like he already. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
How do
mean
you feel about
he got two. He's gotten a few since we started dating.
Okay.
Um, but I'm like all for it. Like I've always been very afraid of snakes, but watching his love for them and his knowledge, like,
Yeah.
definitely makes me feel more comfortable. And knowing that one day it can make a decent amount of money, like I'm all for
Hell
that.
yeah.
Like those are my future vacation, like they're
Yeah.
they're just waiting. We just have to wait till they're a certain age.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I'll
And
see
we
them
need more space.
occasionally, but
Yeah, so it'll be super cool once we can like do that, and it'll be like a really cool process to watch. Like
yeah.
him. I don't remember which give live births and which we have to incubate, but it'll be really cool. So hopefully we have the house by then and have the room.
Yes. Well, I know you're manifesting it, and I'm
I
manifesting it with
am.
you.
I am manifesting it every single morning. I'm like, all right, house with an office space.
Yes. Are you comfortable talking about your relationship with Matt a little bit? Because I
For
think you guys
sure.
are just so cute.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, if people don't know, they should know that, you and Matt met in San Diego, but you guys moved out to Vegas
Together, yeah.
together. And
Mhm.
I think you kind of, we talked about it just briefly. You guys basically hung out one day and just didn't stop hanging out.
Yeah, he slid into my DMs, but apparently he had messaged me like previously about a story about me being like super high in the gym. But one time I posted a story. Yeah, one time I posted a story where I like zoomed in on my feet and I was like, for you feet people. And he replied with a drool emoji. And I'm like, is this guy flirting with me? And then I had really long nails. And so I was like video messaging people back. And like that was like my
Oh,
thing.
wow.
And so he started video messaging me back. And I'm like, oh, this guy's like cute. And
Oh,
we were just like back and forth nonstop for like a few days to where like my phone was dying. Like I'm like, dude, I gotta keep charging my phone because we just like
yeah.
keep talking. And I was like, if you're down to hang out, like I'm down to hang out. Like I don't really do anything. And he was in Oceanside at the time, and he's like, sure, I'll come hang out. And so he did, and didn't let him sleep with me the first night. And so, and so, he was like, oh, interesting, and sent him on his way. And
Yeah.
then we kept hanging out and never stopped. So I would like go up. He was living with his mom at the time. I would go up and bring Tito and stay with him at his mom's house for a few days. And he'd come down, stay at my house for a few days. And we would just be back and forth.
That's so cute.
Yeah, but
Um,
when we first started hanging out, like he had never competed. And so here, like, he was just some dude who was into fitness and, you
yeah.
know, just doing it to like stay on track with his life. And he really kind of helped me diet better. Like,
Oh,
I
okay.
had always had trouble.
Elaborate.
Yeah, I always had trouble staying on my plan and stuff. And just like being with him actually just really helped me figure it out. So I really correlate my bodybuilding career also taking off because he was able to help me like become better at dieting.
That is so cute. I think there's nothing more attractive than a man who supports his woman in whatever aspect, right? Like
Mhm. Yeah,
that's so amazing that he is confident enough and manly enough to be like, hey, you're the star, I'm going to support you in your bodybuilding. And I love seeing him at your shows and your, filming and fangirling out. I can't remember which show it was, but he was filming and then they had you and another girl, they had you and the center girl move, so you were center, and Nat's commentary was like, that's right, scoot over.
yeah.
And
It's so
it's
funny.
just so cute. And I love seeing him in this same shirt. And
It's the number one
I
lover
love
on the
seeing,
back.
yes, he's got a VIP one.
Mhm. Yeah,
But I think it's so cute because I think it takes a lot, right? Like it takes a very secure man to date someone like you,
yeah, it does.
because for what to date anybody in this sport, actually, because in bodybuilding, what are we showing off? Our bodies. So,
Hmm.
for someone who doesn't understand the sport, they can make it seem like it's a very egotistic thing, or a very like overly sexualize it,
Yeah.
um because we're good looking. I don't know, because we're not wearing a lot of clothes. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's our ass cheeks on stage, but those ass cheeks also happen to be the biggest muscle group in your body.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so for a lot of people, they may not be able to accept that, and especially with like the following that you have, and making it to that stage, right?
Yeah.
um so I think that's so admirable and so commendable, and you guys are just so cute. I gush about you guys to my mom.
I'm super thankful though that he's like understanding of like I have a lot of people who look at me a certain way, and he
Yeah,
doesn't get like jealous or he doesn't question like my actions and stuff like that.
yeah,
it's just it's worked out super well, and I'm super thankful. And not just that, like him also competing. Like when we first started dating, like he was like, maybe one day I'll do a show.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a goal. And then the next year he ended up doing his first show ever, and it was so great to like be on the other side and support him and stuff like that.
Yes.
But not only that, like him doing a show, he's been able to like understand when I'm feeling certain types of ways when I'm in prep or
Yeah.
post show. And I could be like, how I'm feeling, like you've done a show before, so just let me feel the way I need to feel.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's going to understand that, especially if
No.
someone hasn't competed. Like
No.
sometimes we feel a certain way for fucking no reason at all. So just let us feel this way, and all is good.
Yeah. It's like next level hangry. It's like perma hangry.
Yeah.
Um yeah. That's that's great. So, him doing a show kind of gets him more of the experience
The
to
experience.
understand beyond more than just a spectator.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Is this something that he plans on doing again? Is
Oh yeah,
he
he did 2 shows this year as well. So now he's done 3.
okay?
Um,
Nice.
and our plan is for him to do like a national show, but he's got a hernia he's got to get
Oh
fixed and
shit.
some health issues. So 2024 is like both of him and I are focusing on our health,
Good.
focusing on like other business ventures, because like when I'm prepping, like I'm so single track minded.
Yeah.
Um, I it's very hard for me to do anything other than like bodybuild. So now we're gonna, take a step back, do the things that I need to do, go do some doctor visits, go
Yeah.
do this and that, handle some life things. And then we'll be back in 2025, both of us.
Awesome. Awesome. Can't wait for that. But what I always say as well is like nothing's more important than your health. Like
Hmm.
being lean is cool, but that's not a
Not
maintainable
healthy.
physique. No, like as much as I love my abs, like I'm cool with being a fluffy girl right now.
Hmm.
Um, I always say it's health comes first and foremost. And like
Hmm.
for people who are not into bodybuilding, I'm like, that's fine. Like you don't have to be a bodybuilder, but at least go to the gym like two, three
Exactly.
times a week. And you don't have to go hard, but at least just go and get some movement in your body. You don't even have to like move heavy weights. Like my mom has a 1 pound, 3 pound, and 5 pound dumbbell that I got her, and it's the colorful one, the little set, the colorful ones. And
Yeah.
I'm like, Mom,
Like,
like you don't have to go crazy, but just
move.
do a little bit of movement here and there, do some upper
Yeah.
body movements. And that's what I tell everybody as well, because it makes a big difference. And like you were saying, one day she's curling the threes, maybe one the next day she's curling the fives, and you
Hmm.
get motivated, and then you're like, next thing you know, you're curling double digits, a whole 10 pounds.
Yep.
So I
Absolutely.
always say like bodybuilding is a sport that I love and I chose to do, but like I it's not something I'm like, oh, yeah, that's great, you should do it, you should, because it is very intense, the dieting, the cardio. But I do always encourage people to go to the gym or find a sport or do something just to keep your body moving for simply
Yes.
the health reasons. So I'm
Everybody,
super glad to hear.
people tend to get stuck, and
Yeah.
they don't move, and then that's when your body starts to fail, and that's when things start to not be good. And
Yep.
so it's just a matter of like keeping moving, whatever it is, swimming, yoga, fucking go take hikes, as long as
Yeah.
you're moving.
And like for me, I you say you played sports in school, right? Like you were
Mhm.
always like an athlete and
Yeah.
stuff. So I never played a sport in school. Um, didn't play a sport in college. I used to like joke that the only time I would run is if I was running to catch a flight or running to the open bar. Um, because your girl was not athletic. And I actually started lifting because in law school, I lived downtown and I had some of my law school friends. We were all in the same apartment building together, and so it's
Oh,
just
that's cool.
they'd be like, "Oh, let's just have a girls' little workout thing twice a week." I was like, "Okay, great." By like week 3, I was like, I don't want to do this shit no more. But they lived in my building, so they would come knocking on my door, and my
Oh,
dog would be barking, and I'd be like, shh, shh. And they're like, we can hear you shushing. And I'm like, ah, fuck, all right, let me get out. So
what
that's
dream
how it
on?
started.
Oh, I love it.
And kind of like what you were saying, I was like, oh, like the fives are getting lighter. Let me move up to the 7.5s and then the 10s. And then I started seeing my physique change. And then I kind of got addicted.
Yeah.
Um, and it really just started in the gym. And then I was scrolling through Instagram. I'm like, oh my gosh, who are these hot bitches in these itsy bitsy super sparkly bikinis? And how do I be one? So I'll be honest. I joined kind of in vain because I was just so enamored
Mm,
by the bodybuilding girls, and then I did a show and kind of got addicted, and
yep.
um,
Either you love it
and
or you don't.
yep, you'll know after your first show. You'll know before your first
Exactly.
show, and I don't. And the thing is like now that I've been like a few years in, I feel like I've learned so much about this sport and I'm still learning every day. Do you feel the same way after being in this sport for so long?
Absolutely. I'm constantly like listening to podcasts or watching YouTube videos, and there's just so much to learn.
Yeah.
So much. It's pretty cool.
And yeah, it is really cool because I think it's also nice just learning about your own body. Like, I
I feel
didn't
like
know
I know more about my body than I could go to a doctor. You know what I mean?
probably.
Like if I went to go show my blood work to like a doctor, I could be like, this is why this is this and that, and they'd be like, these are just out of range. It's just I don't know. I don't trust like doctors because we're like different species almost, like
Yeah.
bodybuilders.
I don't trust doctors because well, at least like this is just my opinion, right? I think because medicine is still a business. Like
uh, uh,
it's like everything is still a business. Like, yeah, they're in the business of medicine and they're in the business of health, but at the end of the day, they're thinking about what's gonna make them money.
exactly. Just pushing this and pushing that. It's
Yes.
when
And
they could
like
be pushing food and exercise.
yes, yes. And especially in the US because doctors and big pharma, like they're BFFs. They're holding hands and dick sucking each other all day. Whereas that's not necessarily the case in other countries, as I know, at least in China,
Yeah.
it's still very holistic. Obviously, if you have cancer, there's only certain things they can do, but
Yeah.
otherwise, they'll be like, hey, maybe eat less red meat or get more walking in, or like make sure you're sleeping at a right schedule. But I feel like US doctors just push drugs on you.
Yeah.
Like there's just like pills after pills, and I mean, I take a lot of pills, but they're like supplement pills.
Yeah.
They're
Same.
like folic acid and
Yeah.
vitamin D3 and glucosamine, but the the prescription and pharmacy in the US just makes me really um distrust that a lot,
I
unfortunately,
know.
because
Yeah, but so I mean, being a bodybuilder, you're still like aware of your body and
yeah.
stuff. So it's like I feel like I can self-treat myself for most things.
Yeah. And one other thing I wanted to touch on before I let you go, you were also in a music video with Tove Lo.
Oh my God, yeah. That was so awesome. That was
I love her, by the way. And then so when I saw you were posting it, I was like, that's so dope. So tell us how that came to be.
so one day I get a message on Instagram from like an agency and they're like, "Hey, we're looking for someone for a music video. Like, please contact us if you are interested, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, looking at the Instagram, I'm like, this seems fake. So I'm like Googling this company, right? And I'm like, okay, they have some like actual, you know, legit looking things. So hop on a call and they're like, yeah, it's for Tovlo, blah, 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 blah. And didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, cool. They were like a Swedish singer, Tovlo, blah, blah, blah. Didn't think anything of it. And then they wrote it down in a text and I'm like, wait, Tovlo? And I'm like, holy shit. And so I hop on a call with the director who is her husband, and
Oh,
he's like,
dope.
yeah, he's like from Australia or something, has this like accent. He's like, oh, what I'm thinking is, at the end, you go in and give her a nice kiss. Is that something you'd be okay with? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I think it was maybe like a week later, 2 weeks later, I went out to um, Joshua National Forest, Joshua Park or whatever, where we were filming. It was like It was 2/22, so it was February 2nd, 2022,
Wow.
and so here we are, we're out at the desert, and we're like, okay, at 2:22, we need to like manifest, and so. It just so happened at 2:22 was just me and her in the trailer because we're about to do a scene. And so we hold each other's hands and we're like, okay, like we're gonna manifest your album being awesome, me like having an amazing pro season, blah blah blah, and like we've had just great year, right?
Wow. I love that. 2022 was your
A good year.
year that, yeah, pro card, music video, Olympia.
Hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Do you
it
guys
was
still
great.
in touch? Is that something you'd be open to doing again in the
Yeah,
future? Because that was a
this,
beautiful video. The visual looks so good.
they still use the visuals when she performs. I
Nice.
When I was at the Olympia, I saw J.M. Mannion, who's one of the head
Yeah.
um, guys in the IFBB, and he's a big Duran Duran fan. And so Tovlo did a music video or did a song with them, and he was like, "Oh, they were playing you and Tovlo in the background at the concert we were just at." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's awesome."
I love that. Did that music video drive more traffic to your Instagram?
I don't think so, but I
No.
do have a lot. I mean, maybe I do have people who comment like Tovlo stuff like on my YouTube channel or whatever.
Yeah.
The one thing that I thought was interesting was I was walking here in my apartment complex. I'm just walking along and this guy runs out and he's like, "Hey, I was just in Mexico and I'm like one of Tovlo's biggest fans. Are you the girl from the music video?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like,
Yes.
"Oh my God." And I'm like, "Dude, you recognized me like from that? Like how?" It was
I
so cool.
love that. Don't you love that when you get recognized?
Yeah, it is
Like,
really cool.
especially when it's something that's like not necessarily like your niche, right? It's not that he didn't
Not
recognize you for
bodybuilding.
being an
Yeah,
Olympia. Exactly.
exactly. It
That's
was super cool.
awesome.
But what was cool was this year was the Olympia having that huge
Yes.
fan of me. I had three actually. So two pictures of me like in Olympia gear stuff when you walked in, and then
Mhm.
that giant Mint 45 post. And I was like, this is better than competing at the Olympia, honestly.
Yeah, I saw those and they looked amazing and you looked amazing.
So
And
cool.
yeah, that is do you get to keep those or what do they do with them?
No, so the ones for the Olympia gear, they used those last year. So I wasn't expecting them to use them again this year. So I
Yeah.
was like pretty stoked. But the one with Mint 45, I like joked with them. I'm like, hey, like if you guys want to just fold that up and mail it to me,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad about it. But I think they might use it for other booths, like for the Arnold or
Okay.
so hopefully I'll get to go to those.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool because I remember you talking about, like 10 years ago your dream was to be in like the O magazine, the Oxygen magazine. But
Yeah.
that's kind of not even a thing anymore. I don't
No,
know how many
unfortunately.
people really buy magazines. So that poster um, is bigger than life, just
It
like you,
is,
Chelsea.
yeah. It was cool.
Just like you. Well, thank you again so much for being on. And, I don't want to keep you too long, but before I let you go, tell the people where they can find you.
Okay, so on Instagram, you can find me. It's Chelsea Baby, ChelseaBabyy. I have a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Chelsea Dion. And those are mainly my two platforms that I'm really on. So you can
Awesome.
contact me
And I
there.
will, yes, and I will definitely put those in the description below so you can find her Instagram, which has her bodybuilding stuff, but she also posts a lot of throwbacks and her day-to-day stuff. And her
Yeah.
YouTube channel is the shit, and she edits them all herself.
On
She
my
works out
phone.
with people. Oh, you edit them on your phone?
Yeah,
Just the tiny little, oh my gosh,
I
she
know.
edits her YouTube videos on her phone, people, and you would never be able to tell because they look so good, like your music layovers, your transitions.
Thank
Like,
you.
first of all, I'm surprised you edit them yourself because you're not a tech gal, you're a bodybuilder.
No,
And then your editing skills, like, now I'm even more impressed knowing that you
thank
do
you.
them on a phone. Do you have an iPad? Because wouldn't it be easier if
No,
it sounds a
I
little bigger? That's well. We're gonna figure something out and get you an iPad to edit on.
I know, I know.
Um, and so I will definitely put all of that in the description below. And so I'm excited to see you and Matt grow in 2024 and
Thank
on stage in
you.
2025. And thank you again so much for coming on and just being so sweet, so
Of
candid, and
course.
always making my little muscles feel like they matter too.
And I'm so proud of you for doing your podcast and stuff. So of course I had to hop
Oh,
on
thank
and
you.
support, chit chat a little
Yes.
bit.
Yes.
When I'm in San Diego, we will get together though.
Yes, I was just about to say next time you roll through, we got to roll one and get a lift in. But I also want to go to Vegas. I
You let
definitely
us
want to
know.
check out the Dragon's Lair.
Hmm.
And what's the other gym you go to all the time that's like,
Torture is
yes,
really good.
Torture, Dragon's Lair, and also the
Elevation.
spinning. Oh yes, but I moved on to food now. I'm
Oh
talking about
yes,
this
okay.
the spinning restaurant. I super want to go to the spinning restaurant
I don't
in the
either.
Stratosphere.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah. Okay, you're up
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it spins. It's a
Uh huh.
360. It's a
So
360
cool.
spin. So,
You let me know.
yes, yes, I will. We definitely got to get together. SD, LV. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Chelsea, and have a
Of
great
course.
rest of your afternoon.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye.